It is a bear trap. The head and shoulder idea with the massive breakdown that we had on Thursday ended up in a massive V-shaped recovery, breaking out from the descending channel resistance, and it's all bullish from here. We're heading up to all-time highs in the next coming days. Or this is a bull trap. This V-shaped recovery is just still part of the right shoulder of this head and shoulder structure and will end up breaking down $100,000 in the next coming days. Now, this is what you're going to see throughout social media. The bears are going to stick bearish. The bulls are going to stick bullish. Now, I'm going to break down in this episode the different probabilities and scenarios that could happen and how the price action needs to develop so you can be confident on your next trading setup. Now, yes, I am in a short position from higher, and I'm also in a long here from this swing failure pattern. This was a very personal trading setup with this falling knife situation, but it ended up in a swing failure pattern. Now, I'm going to break down today the different trading setups that I'm looking at for the next coming days. Now, do remember that on Bluffing, you do get an insane bonus, 20% cash back on your deposit, on all of these different perks as well. And on weeks, if you can't trade on Bluffing, well, you do have $30,000 deposit bonus and also 25% fee reduction. Now, on both of these exchanges, you only need an email and a password, no VPN. Check out the first two links down below, guys, so you can sign up right away and get these bonuses. So let's break down here these different scenarios. Now, am I bullish or am I bearish? I do realize both scenarios. I'm interested in shorts and longs. I'm in short from higher and long from lower. Now, I need to understand the next price action to see what could happen. Now, let's go here with the first most bullish case scenario, which eventually is taking a look at all of this structure as a correction as we were leaning throughout the last few days. Everything looks very corrective, even this price action, despite this movement down that was quite aggressive, ending up with a swing failure pattern of this low of the range. Well, I still see all of this highly likely being corrective, okay? And of course, the most bullish case scenario would be this is the low, right? And we heading up to all-time high in the next coming weeks, if not days. Well, the most bullish case scenario is a finished WXY, which we had a massive zigzag to the downside. We also had this zigzag to the upside, finishing your wave X, and then this three-wave structure down to finish in this swing failure pattern, claim the liquidity. We're ready to go to higher levels. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that this movement to the upside is a leading wave. It is an impulse. It does have 5 waves to the upside. Of course, there is that bearish case scenario, even though this is a 5-wave move to the upside. So make sure to stay tuned throughout later on in this video, and I'll explain in detail why this could actually be bearish, even though I do see low probability in that happening, and I'll explain in detail later on. So if this is going to be the end of your corrective move, we've had a massive 5-wave structure to the upside. Now let's just break it down here on the 15-minute time frame. We can see that nice little bounce that we had after the falling knife, forming that little consolidation, right? We had the bounce and it was ranging here before getting the next leg to the upside, which was very aggressive throughout Friday. So we can label this as your wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, your wave 4, and we are in the development or end stages of that wave 5. And right over here, we can see that 5-wave move to the upside. All good, all clear when we do take a look at this price action. So let's go back to the 30-minute time frame and understand where we are at the moment, because yes, we are hitting some resistance throughout the weekend. All right, we can see how the price has been chopping for many hours in the value area high and the point of control of this consolidation that we've had this week. Okay, so yeah, we are finding a little bit of resistance. This is the level where we did get rejected on Thursday, so there is a little bit of a struggle. There is the potential of this being a 5-waver finished, and we could be getting a pullback from here. Now, this is where I'm interested in, okay? How is the price action going to move to the downside? We actually got a back test from the value area low of this range and also the point of control of the last few weeks of the price action, right? It is value area low of this consolidation, and it's the point of control. We managed to move up on Friday and back tested it here on Saturday early morning, getting that beautiful higher low bounce and revisit the highs. Now, of course, we are consolidating here for a few hours. It is the point of control of this week, right? And the value area high. So now the question is, what I am looking at here, this is going to be the end of a corrective move, and this is a leading move that is pretty clear for me. I want to see a nice corrective move, a three-wave structure forming a little bit of a channel, a little bit of a wedgie structure, have an attempt possibly to break down the point of control. That is totally fine. Now, this would be the moment that I would be interested in looking for a long position, because without a doubt, I think there's higher chance that we do revisit $107,000, maybe even hitting 108 and 109. So I do see this as a one wave to the upside, and the prices move in either 3 waves or in 5 waves. So for the moment, we've only got one big wave to the upside from Friday and part of Saturday. So if we do get some kind of a wedgie corrective structure to the downside to 104, maybe 103 zone, right? Maybe even slightly lower. You know, this could be very interesting. I need that 3-waver, and the easiest setup here eventually would be the breakout of the resistance of the descending channel or descending wedge. So the breakout here would be very interesting, because without a doubt in my mind, there would be a high chance that we are going to revisit $106,000 and $107,000, and you want to be in that position, okay? So this is something that I'm looking at for the next couple of days for a high probability trading setup. Now, of course, there could be the chance of you catching the C wave if it is a 3-wave structure, all right? Reclaim of the point of control. This is something that will be talked about in the Telegram group or the Discord, okay? We'll be looking, me, myself, and Devil and the rest of the coaches for this scenario to see if we can catch the lower prices in this setup, guys. Make sure to join the Telegram down below in the description. It is the 3rd link down below, okay? Join the community to get more information on that. Now, let's go right away with the other scenarios, okay? So very interesting for long positions. We do know that this could be the end of a correction. We have a leading move here, 5-wave structure. Could we have this pullback in the next 24 to 48 hours? And we're very interested in that leg to the upside. Something that looks very, very good indeed, okay? So that would be the long setup that we would be looking for. What if we do not get that pullback? Well, I want to explain the other scenarios, of course. Now, let's take a look here, getting this out of the way, the other scenarios. This is the bullish one. Let's talk about some bearish case scenarios, okay? Which would be the price actually moving to the upside, but we're still going to be continuing ranging, okay? Now, if this is going to be the bullish case scenario, we have a finished corrective structure right over here. Well, we are looking for all-time high for the next coming weeks, right? This is a leading move. You're probably correcting down. You explode either in another wave 1 and 2 and then 3, right? Or you're actually already in the 3rd wave formation throughout the next coming days. You know, this is eventually looking at this as the end of a correction, and this could end up very, very bullish. Not only reclaiming the highs of the range, but ultimately, you know, really paying attention to the price action. It might explode to the upside. We don't know. Maybe it is an option, right? Overall, we should be already inside of this wave and definitely see, okay, how the price is going to develop. So let's go right away with the other scenarios, right? This is the other one, right? Where we do have the zigzag move to the upside. And right now we are still forming your X wave, or the X wave is already in here, right? And we are going to be forming a Y structure here, all right, to finish this correction in the next coming days or 1 to 2 weeks. Now, if we lean this scenario right over here, we have the zigzag to the downside in your W. You have your zigzaggy move up here in your wave X. And right over here, we would be forming some kind of a different pattern, of course. We could be looking at a triangle structure right over here where we've moved down in a zigzag. We moved up here more impulsively for me, okay, but it's definitely a scenario that could happen. You might move down, claim the highs, and then you're forming a kind of a triangle in this structure. Not really the best scenario to talk about right now because the price really needs to chop for many days. So talking about it right now, when there's so many different scenarios, is kind of, you know, not worth it, right? If we do form a little bit of a triangle structure in the next coming days, we can definitely talk about that scenario. Now, if this were to be the end of X, there's, you know, 2 ways in forming your Y, as mentioned, a possible triangle structure throughout the next coming days, or possibly looking at a flat structure. Now, we do have a 3-wave move down here from your wave X here from Tuesday. Now, we've moved pretty impulsively, so it would make sense to correct down here and then move up and claim the highs right over here of your A wave. We are labeling this like this right over here, right? This is the scenario that we would be looking at, right? Either a flat or a running flat to finish your wave Y. Now, as we moved impulsively here, then of course, you know, a corrective move and another leg up to form a 3-wave structure to get your B wave from your ABC flat of your Y wave. Now, this is a very interesting zone, okay, where we could be getting a swing failure pattern and massive resistance pullback from this area. Now, why is this zone so important, okay, in between 108K and 109K? Well, we do have the golden pocket from the highs to the lows. That is one thing, right? That is slightly under $108,000. Now, of course, this could squeeze up, all right, and claim that lower high right over here. These are 2 levels of rejection that I am paying attention. Either a rejection from the golden pocket, or it might squeeze up ever so slightly to get to this lower high. Now, this lower high right over here, sitting at $109,000, there is a weekly level. Okay, we do have the point of control of this range that we had the last couple of weeks. As you can see, the high volume node, and there is a lower high right over here. This lower high, as you can see, is also where we have the weekly and the point of control. This is a beautiful level for a swing failure pattern, okay? Could this B wave in the flat extend all the way up there? Absolutely, it is a possibility. It's a level regardless for a swing failure pattern. You get above it, soon as you get below it, this is a great level for a swing failure pattern to get a major correction, potentially of a few $1,000s. So it's a very interesting short trigger. Short, stop loss at the high. You're looking for a wave to the downside here. Now, of course, the golden pocket could be reached, all right? And that is the level of rejection. We know that golden pocket is the most respected Fibonacci level. So there is a chance here that we do not get here to the weekly and the point of control in this lower high, and it starts rejecting from this point. So I'll be paying attention to this level for this scenario in an ABC flat, okay, of this WXY, okay? Now, that is one scenario, okay? Also, that is possible. Now, as we do have so many scenarios, you might be thinking, well, are you bullish or are you bearish? I am a trader, okay? I look to get into intraday setups and possibly hold the trade for a few days or maybe even a couple of weeks as I'm leaning more into swing trading setups. This is why I'm in a short from higher and I'm in a long from lower, okay? So I'm interested regardless of what scenarios happen. I do know my levels and I do know where I want to get into a short position, and I do know where I want to get into a long position as well, depending on how the price develops. Now, what are the other scenarios that I'm looking at? Well, we do have the bearish case. Of course, this is still very much a possibility where we have just finished our X wave, okay? Now, this is very, very possible still, and we are going to break down here, right? I don't see this as the highest probability scenario, even though we need to consider it always on a chart, right? You always need to have a bullish or a bearish case scenario where you have your zigzag in your wave W and now your flat structure in your wave X. Now, if we were to finish here, this would be a running flat, right? Where you do not claim the highs of your A waves. Now, this is not a, this is a rare, flat. They do happen eventually, but it would be rare. And as it is a rare flat, then I wouldn't consider it, okay, too much, and I wouldn't give it the highest probability. But I need to see that, this is possibly a scenario. Now, how would I be confident that we are going to go to lower levels, okay? And we have not finished this larger WXY. And of course, this WXY could take us down to the mid 90K levels because the target zone, if this is going to be the WXY, you get the Fibonacci extension from your W to the end of your wave X. If it is going to be a running flat, I don't think it's the case, but I will tell you the confirmation where I do see this pattern evolving right now in the next coming minutes. But overall, the target zone most commonly is at least taking the lows of your W, which is literally claimed right there because this is a flat. but most common targets is the 0.618 to the 1.236 Fibonacci extension, okay? Now, 1.236 is very common for a double zigzag WXY. This would be coming all the way down to $95,000. Now, how will I know that this pattern has the highest probability? Well, it's going to be in the next move of the next 24 to 48 hours, because if the price after this movement to the upside, which is a 5-wave structure, but we do understand that this could be a flat, and of course a flat is part of a correction if you're moving to the downside. So if we were to move down impulsively in the next 24 hours in a 5-wave structure, I will be leading very heavily in this scenario, where we would be expecting a bounce to the upside and then another leading move to the downside to form that zigzag. This movement down will confirm that we are forming a double zigzag to the downside. Forming a 5-wave structure to the downside here after forming a 5-wave structure to the upside will confirm that this is a running flat, meaning that you're likely going to get a bounce and continue to the downside. Of course, the bounce to the 50% 7.8 Fibonacci is going to be the level where I would be interested in taking the short position. But we need that strong leading move in a 5-wave structure to the downside, okay? So yeah, this has a chance, and this will confirm that this is what we're looking at, a double zigzag down, and this is a flat. So pay attention in the next coming days. Of course, I will be going live and I will be updating the community and the Telegram for that high probability trading setup. Now, this would be the most bearish case scenario, okay? This movement has not finished, this corrective structure has not finished, and we're heading to lower levels, potentially the mid 90K levels. Now, what would be the most extreme bearish case scenario, which I think has low probability, is forming a multiple 1-2 setup. Of course, you know, I don't like this scenario because the second wave 1 and 2 is extremely longer from your higher time frame wave 1 and 2. Okay, so if this is a 1-2 and this is your second wave 1 and 2, well, eventually you're still developing your third wave, and this is getting a little bit overextended in time, and the price action from your second wave 1 and 2 is much more aggressive than your first wave 1 and 2 from the higher time frame. So I'm not leaning too much that this is the highest probability scenario. Of course, the price would have to be falling down very aggressively in the next coming days, okay, for this to be the case, because what you are developing is a third wave here, literally, okay? But overall, not paying too much attention to this scenario as it has lower probability because your higher time frame wave 1 and 2 is much smaller than your lower time frame second wave 1 and 2, but it's something to take into consideration. Now, not much more has to be said. You know, the levels for me are clear for trading. If we do correct down here, we channel, okay, I'm ready for a long position either from the break of the trend. If we do move up from here, well, of course, this does look like that could be the end of a 5-wave structure. So we could be correcting down from here. If we were to suddenly extend from here, I would be looking at a extensive wave 5. I do know that the correction is likely going to happen. And if we were to extend here in this wave 5, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your 5 wave is extending a little bit. I will be ready to short, okay, either the rejection from the golden pockets or potentially, I mean, that this is the best level of confluence, weekly level, point of control of the range, and a lower high for a swing failure pattern. So I know exactly where I want to get into a long, and I know exactly where I want to get into a short position, regardless if the price is bullish or bearish. Thank you very much for joining, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.